Hello, stranger.
Hello there.
How are
Hi.
you?
I'm doing well. Doing very well. Thank you. Yeah,
How's the cycle going?
it's a little bit slower this year, which is very welcomed. But
Okay.
after the last couple of years being the largest applicant pool and then the second largest applicant pool, I'm in need of a break.
I I can imagine. Oh my gosh. I
Yeah.
wonder why it's slower. I I don't know. I don't know that I can personally point to why it would be slower.
Yeah.
I still see a lot of students that are excited and ready to jump in. So maybe more gap years now.
Yeah.
Could be burnout.
I think burnout also, that you can take the LSAT pretty much every single month, with the exception of those 3 months. And so, because it's still early in the cycle, maybe students are waiting for that best score. So, like the November exam, and then is there one in December? I think there's one in December, right? Or
No, I think they killed
okay,
that one because
okay,
it used to be in December and then
right.
they just gave us a November and a January. Like there's always a November, always a January now.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah. So we'll see how it goes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, for today, I'm not. I'm never sure how many people are going to sign on. Hopefully, we get a
Sure.
nice turnout. It could be just one. Who knows?
All right.
Fingers crossed. It's not the latter. But
Yeah.
um, I figure we can take it with your. I mean, I imagine you probably have like a PowerPoint presentation or something that you are going to have. So I'm going to introduce you. I'm going to then mute myself, and then, when it's over, either you can open it up to questions, or if you want me to do that, that's fine. If there's not a lot of questions, I can ask a few, just to kind
Yeah.
of keep things. But certainly, as you saw, we are recording. Hopefully, you're
Yep.
okay with that.
Totally fine.
Um, yeah, and we'll make it available to the students that might not have been able to attend.
Sure.
Do you have any concerns for me or questions for me?
No, not at all. I can go with the flow. So whatever works for you. And
Same.
yeah, so it's all good.
Good deal. Oh, if just before I forget, I don't want to forget. Give my
Yeah,
best to Sam. Give my best to Dave.
sure, absolutely.
Yes, hugs to the crew.
Yeah. The Dave, he came up for the UTA event, right?
He did. He did. It
Yeah.
was nice. I think he was one of those, unfortunately, that just probably was hoarse by the end because just he was, yeah. They cornered him, and yeah, he didn't have a break the entire time. But it was a pretty good turnout. I'm really, really proud of the number of kids that we had coming through there.
Good, good, good.
So, all right. Well, we'll give it another second. I don't know if you need to pop or grab a drink or anything, but I'll give it just another second. I see there's already two people in the waiting room.
Yeah, no,
So,
I'm all good.
okay. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. It is exactly 12 o'clock. We're going to go ahead and get started. For those of you joining us for the first time, Virtual Lunch and Learn is a fun thing that we started during the pandemic where we get a chance to speak with either attorneys, um, corporate practitioners, law school admissions representatives, and spend a nice, 30 to 45 minutes, just getting to know one another and learning more about uh, the practice of law, or in this case, learning more about going to law school. And joining us for this afternoon, we have a very special guest joining us from Austin, Texas at UT School of Law is Dean Mathiew Lay. So please join me in welcoming him. Thank you so much, Mathiew, for being here. Well, and I
Thank
should be
you.
more formal. So you all be formal with him and definitely
Oh
refer
my
to him as
gosh,
Dean.
no need to. No, please.
For sure. Well, I'm going to go ahead and let him take it away. If you have any questions while he's going, uh, uh, Dean, like, what's your preference? Do you want it in the chat, or would you like for them to raise their hand and ask, or just wait till we get to the end?
Yeah, whatever is convenient for the students. So if you have a question, feel free to raise your hand, or you want to drop it in the chat, or we can wait to the end. So feel free to interrupt me whenever you have a question. It's all good.
Sounds good. Okay. All right. Well, it's your show. Take it away. And thank
Thank
you
you.
again, guys, for being here.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for the invitation and to get the opportunity to talk about Texas law and why we think it's the best place to be a law student. I'm going to couch my comments in terms of why we believe the law school is a wonderful community, but also, of course, take a deep dive into the application components, and then, of course. I'll allocate some time to answer any questions you might have either about the law school or the application process. So let me go ahead and share my screen here. Give me 1 second. Let's see. There we go. Let's see. I need to go into slideshow mode. And I believe I have to do this. Okay. Does that look good for everyone? And what you're seeing is
That
the
looks great. We see the entire presentation.
great, perfect. Thank you. All right. So, why is Texas law the best place to be a law student? Well, for one, of course, the people here at Texas law is really at its core the community, right, that we have here at the law school. And so the faculty, of course, are the esteemed colleagues that we have here that are renowned in their own right and experts in their field. And so a lot of what attracts students to Texas law is being able to attend a law school where they're going to learn from the best of the best. And we really believe that the best faculty are those who are teaching here, and particularly those who are teaching in our first year curriculum. But in addition to our faculty, of course, our administrators make a huge part of the community as well. We are all supportive of our students and the rest of the community here at the law school. And so from our student affairs team to our career services team, we are here to help our students to be successful in whatever career path and educational pursuits that they may have. In addition, of course, I'm biased when it comes to the admissions office, but I strongly believe we have the best admissions team in the country, and we're here to help you navigate the application process and to answer your questions about how Texas law would be a good fit for you. And then, of course, you can't have the community without our students, right? Our students are highly accomplished, academically talented, coming from all parts of the state of Texas and from all parts of the world, really, to come to Texas, to Austin, to get their legal education and do the wonderful work that we know that they will end up doing once they leave Towns Hall. And part of that, of course, is the part of the ecosystem in the community is our alumni. So we have over 25,000 Lebanon alum from, who are practicing in all parts of the United States and several countries. And we're just so grateful to have a robust Texas law community out there. Again, not only to help support our students, but really to carry the mission of the law school itself. And another reason why we believe we are a strong place and the best place to be a law student is, the program, of course, the academic program that we have for our students from the first year curriculum to the varied and diverse courses that we offer for our upper division students. You're coming here because you want a strong legal education, and we I can guarantee you that you will have the opportunities to take advantage of, again, the different kinds of programmatic aspects that we offer to the students. Not just the courses themselves, where we will give you the strong theory and foundation in law, but we also believe that students should walk out of the law program with some tangible skills, right? So we have 16 clinical opportunities for students to take advantage of, as well as internships. The distinction between internships and clinics is internships generally are housed off campus, but of course, still supervised work for the students. And so those are wonderful ways for students to get the skill set that they need in order to position themselves well in the career space, as well as just, again, being able to walk out of the law program and say, I know how to do the work that lawyers need to know how to do. And then last but not least, Austin is just a great place to be. Austin continues to be one of the fastest growing cities in the country, with a heavy tech focus and startup community here. We are in Central Texas, for those of you who don't know. And being part of Central Texas means we're not that far from other parts of Texas, right? Almost 3 hours to the DFW area, and then 3 hours or so to Houston and elsewhere. Many of our students used to say they would love to practice in Austin. And that didn't used to be the case, and it's still the case that many of our students will go and practice in Houston or Dallas and other parts. But, now because of the growing tech sector and many of the large law firms have followed their clients to Austin, many students are actually staying here in Austin to practice as well. And of course, being close to the government center and the Capitol, just about 2 miles north of the Capitol, that offers our students an opportunity to work in public service, public interest, and government agencies, do some clerkship opportunities that attending law school in another jurisdiction might not be part of that. So that's another reason why you may want to consider Austin as a place to attend law school. And here are some quick facts about living in Austin. Of course, just a wonderful place. There's so many things to do here. The bottom right picture is a picture of the Austin City Limits Festival, which takes place in October. There's a lot of paddleboarding that happens, along Lady Bird Lake. And so if you're outdoorsy and you love music and love attending festivals, and Austin's a wonderful place. I'm going to pause right there real quick and just to see if there are any questions before I continue on. All right. Of course, we want to prepare our students for the job market. And this is a snapshot of the most recent class that we have data for, which is the class of 2021. The class of 2022 data is forthcoming and generally will be published out in March. But as you can see here, 92% of the most recent class, which is historically on average, had full-time bar required or JD Advantage jobs within 10 months of graduation. And so that's just a number that we're very proud of, because it takes a village to prepare our students for the job market, not just from the academic side, but also from the career services standpoint, spearheaded by Assistant Dean David Montoya and the several former practicing attorneys that help students navigate the job market. They do a number of info sessions, career fairs, resume blast, and of course, our on-campus interview process, which generally takes place in the spring and summer. Coming to Texas Law for your legal education will really position you well for the job market. So while the vast majority of our students will enter into the private sector, I want to call out a couple of areas that our students will also end up in. Judicial clerkships is something that we prioritize here at the law school. We have a full-time clerkship director whose job really is to help students understand what clerks do, but also expand the pool of clerks. Traditionally, clerkships have been, relegated for the students who perform well academically in law school. But it's not just those students as well. Judges are looking for many different kinds of clerks, and of course, students who perform well is important, but also students who bring different perspectives. And that's another reason to sort of consider Texas as a potential place to practice, because we benefit from being the second largest state and one of the largest legal markets in the country. And then, as I mentioned, being in Austin, we just have the ability to offer students government opportunities that, again, if you're not working in the capital or DC, then you wouldn't necessarily have. We also focus a lot of our efforts to promote public interest and public service careers. And so you'll see that percentage there, about 9% of that class went into public service and public interest work. So coming to Texas Law will position you well for a job. And then, of course, bar passage as well. Now, this data is for the class of 2021. And not only are we hoping to get you a job, but we also want you to pass the bar as well. And so the most recent data will be published fairly soon here. So, and as you can see, as I mentioned, many of our graduates are practicing in nearly all 50 states across the country and across the globe. I mentioned earlier about the experiential learning opportunities that we have here, and I won't dive into detail about each of them. Instead, what I'll do is I'll invite you to visit our website, where you can certainly take a deeper dive in the different experiential learning opportunities. But as you can see, it's quite robust, right? Many of our clinics will focus on criminal law, but there's a wide spectrum of issues that our students are interested in, and that we have a robust faculty that are able to teach in that space. In terms of, I'm going to pause here because I think I see a question. So by Amber, so what kind of bar prep services are available to support students as they prepare for the bar? Of course, the first year doctrinal courses are really intended to help our students prepare for the bar. But in addition to that, as students get closer to their third year, we offer a number of programs through our student affairs office, where the counselors will help students focus their studies on the bar, including helping them go through practice exams and work on their writing and essay. And so a lot of that will happen and take place during their 3L year. Good question. So now what I want to do is to kind of pivot to the application process here. Our application process is pretty standard, and you will see the application components to be very similar to what other schools also require. And that does include a personal statement, a resume, of course, sitting for the LSAT or the GRE in our instance, where we do accept that and have started and accepted that as early as 2018. Your academic record is also of great import, because we want to understand your academic potential to pursue a rigorous course of study. Letters of recommendation are required, and here at the law school, we do require two. And then we do invite students to provide optional statements, and if they've answered in the affirmative to any of the character and fitness questions, it's actually not optional, it's actually a required statement. And then what is different about Texas law in terms of our application process compared to the majority of law schools is that we do offer students the ability to interview, and I'll talk a little bit about that. So what I'll do is just kind of take a deeper dive in each of these components here throughout the rest of the presentation. So the personal statement, I mean, I could honestly spend a full hour on just talking about the personal statement itself, but in essence, you can think about it in a couple of ways. What we're really trying to garner from the application is an understanding of who you are, what were your experiences, and how have those experiences shaped the way that you view the world that has led you to the point where you believe legal education is going to be important for you to help solve the issues that you want to solve. Sometimes it's helpful to think of the personal statement in terms of an interview, right? In the same way that if you were sitting before an admissions committee, we would ask you, why are you interested in pursuing a law school? What is it about a legal education that excites you? What are the issues that you're hoping to solve, right? And so you think of the personal statement from that lens, that will help frame what your essay will focus on. And so that's a great strategy to kind of think about the personal statement. The other thing that you could do when it comes to the personal statement is to make sure that you focus the personal statement on you and not necessarily on someone else or something else, right? I'll give you an example. Oftentimes students will talk about, an inspiration, whether that's a family member or just someone in the community that really inspired them to pursue law school. What they tend to do is write a statement about the other person. But we're not trying to admit the other person into law school, we're really trying to admit you. So making sure that you underscore all of those things about you and your experience is going to help us understand and get the information that we need to make the assessment as to whether or not you would be a good fit here at the law school, right? So just focusing the story on yourself is always a good thing to do when it comes to the personal statement. And of course, this is your opportunity to really showcase, your strong writing ability and your communication ability. Many of our committee members are faculty members, and so it's just important to put your best foot forward. And having a statement being edited and well drafted, and having multiple people give you feedback and take a look at it is always a good strategy when it comes to the personal statement as well. Oops. Excuse me. The other thing that we're also interested in is, of course, not just your story and your statement, we're also interested in the things that you've done in your college career, in your professional career. And one of the distinctions that I always like to make when it comes to the resume for a law school is that it's a little bit different from the resume that I'm sure you were encouraged to write when it came to applying for jobs. I'm sure, if you go to the Career Service Center at your university, they probably would say, keep it to one page, keep it to one page. But the distinction between a resume for law school and a resume for a employer is that you're applying to you're putting experiences on your resume for an employer, only those things that are relevant to that job that you're applying for. In contrast, not only are we interested in those experiences from the law school's perspective, but we're also interested in your leadership opportunities, the things that you've done in the community with respect to volunteer work, just various kinds of honors and awards and extracurricular activities are going to be helpful to us to understand what issues that you're engaged in, right? And so it's not just the professional stuff, it's the leadership activities, the student organizations that you're involved in, the things that you've done on the community side. Foreign language proficiency is also something that we're interested in as well. So we give you up to 3 pages to help us understand the full breadth of experiences that you come to the table with, right? Things that you may not necessarily have shared with us in your personal statement. So make sure you take advantage of the resume. At the same time, if all you can really fill is 1 page, then by all means, do that, right? And don't feel like you need to expand your resume just for the sake of expansion. Make sure that you're sharing with us all of those things that are helpful to help to make an assessment about what you bring to the table and how you contribute to the learning environment here at the law school. So when it comes to the standardized test, it's one of those things that we all have to pursue. The vast majority of students will take the LSAT, and a small fraction of students will take the GRE in lieu of the LSAT. For the students who are pursuing the GRE, it's a particular type of student, usually a student who might be considering a dual degree, and so other graduate programs that might not necessarily accept the LSAT. Those students may apply to law school in conjunction with the other program, just utilizing the GRE. But it is an important tool for us to help us understand, again, what your potential academic success will look like in your first year. We do offer an early decision biting program here at the law school. And so if you're considering the early decision program, then you have to have taken the October administration as the last LSAT before you submit your application, which is due on November 1st for our ED applicants. And then we consider all scores, and because we see them, LSAC reports all of those scores, but we report the highest to the ABA. As I mentioned earlier, the academic record is of great import to us. You're required to submit all your transcripts leading up to your first bachelor's to LSAC. And what LSAC does in return is they normalize those grades for me and other reviewers, and they submit a CAS report to the law schools. And this provides a lot of helpful information, for us to help us understand your grade performance and the different classes that you pursued. It's helpful for us to look at your grade trends. Upward grade trends, of course, are always favored. Downward grade trends are certainly going to be noticed. And so to the extent that you are going to have a downward grade trend, you may want to include an addendum, for us to explain those nuances to your academic record. If you've pursued any graduate work, it's also important to submit those transcripts to LSAC as well, because while it's not reported as your official GPA, it's still helpful to us to understand your academic preparation. And so that's something that we would encourage students to do. We have a question here when it comes to what is considered an acceptable or competitive GRE score. And LSAT medians are everywhere, but there's very little information about there for how the admissions process interprets GRE scores. Yeah, that's a great question. So, the acceptable versus competitive GRE score, I would say that there's anything that's acceptable or unacceptable rather, right? And this is in part because we take the holistic admissions approach quite seriously. And what that means is not one piece of your academic record or your application material will dictate the overall decision. Sometimes it influences it, but it's not the end all be all. So an example of that is, there are many students that come to the table where the LSAT is not going to be reflective of their academic potential, but that is taken into consideration with their overall grade performance as an undergrad or maybe graduate work, right? So we kind of take the entire application to help us again understand and help us understand and answer whether or not the student is going to really be successful on the law school front, right? But to be more responsive to your question about sort of GRE scores, I would say that this past year, it hovered around a 156 on the verbal and the quantitative, and the writing tends to be around a 5 or a little bit higher than that. And so again, those scores may not necessarily be they'll vary from year to year. Because I know the year prior to that, the median scores for the verbal and the quantitative were around the 160 range. And so that's just going to be one part of the overall application, as I mentioned, because of the holistic admissions process. So now talking about the letters of recommendations, as I shared with you earlier, we accept two, we require two. We do ask students to submit a letter of recommendation, generally from an academic, because you're entering an academic enterprise. And so it's just helpful for us to understand, again, that question of, are you academically prepared for law school? But of course, we invite you to ask other recommenders as well, and that could include employers, supervisors, community leaders, anyone who is in sort of that supervisory role to help us understand the skill set that you come to the table with, your analytical skills, your writing skills, all of those things that a letter of recommendation from an academic would certainly express to us. These are particularly helpful when it comes to assessing candidates for whom the LSAT and the GPA may not be reflective of their overall academic potential. As I mentioned earlier, in terms of the optional statements, this is an opportunity for students to explain unusual circumstances or kind of shine a light on a particular aspect of their application. It's not optional if you are answering the affirmative in the character and fitness questions related to either criminal matters or academic issues. But in terms of format, keep it to one page, double space, and just tell us the information that we need. You don't need to belabor the point. But in addition to that, we do offer students to provide an optional statement when it comes to showing a little bit more about their background that may not be reflected in their personal statement, in part because the personal statement is very limited in terms of the space. We give you up to 2 pages, that's it, 1-inch margins. And so that's just something that we give students another opportunity to share a little bit more about their background. We have another question here. What if I have been a stay-at-home mom for the last 10 years and have been out of school for some length of time? Getting letters or recommendations is next to impossible, particularly, I assume, from an academic. And so what recommendation or what advice would I give to that particular candidate? And I would say, I totally understand, that scenario is very different from the traditional applicant who's coming, right out of undergrad or maybe a couple years right out of undergrad, where the relationship with a professor or an academic might be better attainable. And so for that candidate, getting a letter of recommendation, again, from an employer is going to be totally fine, someone in the community. But again, I would just urge that particular candidate to get someone who can attest to their skill set, right? This is an opportunity for the candidate to have the conversation with the potential recommender, whether it's an employer or community leader, to say, these are the things that the admissions committee are looking for. And so if you can at least express in your recommendation those factors, that will certainly benefit them. Another part of the question is, how important are these letters in the holistic review? I would say absolutely they're important because, again, for the candidate for whom the LSAT and the GPA are not going to help us understand their academic potential, getting a letter recommendation from a professor who can say, we know the student may not have the best undergraduate record and/or the best LSAT compared to other applicants at the pool, but you should still take a chance on this candidate, and here's why, right? Those kinds of letters are going to be quite persuasive to the admissions committees. So absolutely, you can use the letters recommendations as part of your overall strategy in constructing your application. As I mentioned, we're a little unique in terms of inviting students to provide an interview as part of the application process. It's invite only, meaning we will reach out to you to let you know that you've been invited to do an interview. There are 4 questions, including a written response. You'll have a minute to prepare and 90 seconds to respond, and there's a number of rotating questions. And so not every candidate gets asked the same questions, but they'll get asked the same types of questions, right? Yeah, it's been very helpful to us to understand a little bit more about a student's background that we're not able to glean from the rest of their application, whether that's in their resume, student personal statements, etc. So I have found the interview to be quite helpful. Not everyone will get an interview invite, and so you can be admitted into the program without even having done an interview, and vice versa. So, but it's been great, and we hope to continue interviewing in the near future. Other considerations, as I've mentioned earlier, we do have an early decision program, and just a little more information about that. The early decision program is really for those applicants for whom they know that Texas law is their #1 choice and they're willing to forego other options. The benefit of doing the early decision program is that we do guarantee scholarships for all of the applicants who are admitted in the ED program. Once your application is received, we do expedite a review for those applicants, and we do guarantee a decision by the end of January, but typically it's a lot earlier than that. For those who are not interested in the early decision program, then our regular decision application deadline is going to be March 1st. As a general matter, it will take the committee about 8 to 10 weeks, depending on the application volume and perhaps other factors that might influence that reading time frame, but we try to do our best to get the decision out for the applicants because we know you're sitting there stressed and want a decision very soon. So we are definitely reading a lot earlier than we've had in the past. And so from the date that your application is completed, we pretty much just send them to the committee to review. For those students who are seeking an application fee waiver, we do have an application fee waiver program. I invite you to go to our website to learn a little bit more information about that. But in essence, we do have merit-based fee waivers, need-based. If you've done public service, for example, AmeriCorps, Peace Corps, you can apply for a fee waiver there, in addition to students who've participated in the military. And so we do offer fee waivers for our veterans. Something that we don't talk enough about, but I certainly want to make sure that students are aware and understand is just the financial impact of attending law school. This chart here just showcases the overall cost of attendance for the incoming class of 2022, broken down from in-state, out-of-state, the annual cost of attendance, and the 3-year cost of attendance, because it's not just the tuition that you're paying for, you're also paying for living expenses as well. And so you can't think about the cost of attendance without thinking about living expenses and all of the other costs that are associated with attending law school. What I've done here is also just isolate the public institutions, right? So UVA, Michigan, Berkeley, and UCLA. And as you can see, for Texas residents, it is a very affordable price point, but that's not to be confused with the quality, right? Return of investment is of great import for many of our prospective students, and given the high placement rates that we have, combined with the tuition and affordability, does position our students and graduates well when it comes to their overall indebtedness, which is of great importance to many of our students these days. Even for our non-residents, many of our students are receiving a significant discount when it comes to their tuition. Many, if not all of the non-resident students will receive some form of a waiver that reduces their tuition from in-state to out-of-state, in addition to any scholarship opportunities as well that we may be offering our students. We have a question here. Is there a financial disadvantage to applying later in the admission cycle? That's a great question. Yes, there is a financial disadvantage in the sense that after a student has been admitted, then they're invited to submit a scholarship application. Like many institutions, we have a finite pool of what that scholarship pool will look like for the annual year. Once we start giving out scholarship awards, and when it runs out, it runs out. So you want to make sure that you get your application in sooner rather than later so that you're in that early pool of students that are submitting their scholarship applications for the scholarship committee to review. So definitely consider applying before the calendar year, the end of the calendar year, because when we get back from the holiday break in January, your application materials will go straight to the committee. So many students are preparing their applications during that winter break period. So the next piece here is just advice and things to sort of think about related to the financing of law school. Of course, we talked about the scholarships from the law school, but I would encourage you to sort of be creative in looking for scholarships outside of the law school. Law firms offer a number of scholarships, and so definitely do your due diligence and do the research when it comes to scholarships. Community organizations also offer scholarships as well. And so going to the different organizations that you might be involved in and to see what scholarship opportunities are available to them. AccessLex.org is a wonderful organization that has a platform that makes it quite easy for students to figure out what kind of law school focused scholarships there are for students. And so you want to make sure that you visit their website. Personal statements, of course, is also something that we ask students to think about when it comes to preparing for law school, because the more that you save on the front end that you can utilize for law school, the less loans that you'll inevitably have to take out. Grants are offered here at Texas Law, and the distinction between scholarship and grants is that grants are usually need-based. And so you want to make sure that you submit your FAFSA, whether you decide to borrow federal student aid or not. That's how we assess need. And so you would definitely want to make sure that you submit your FAFSA. And then the vast majority of students are going to pursue federal loans to finance their legal education, but there are some private loan opportunities for students. But we generally steer students away from the private sector, but if that is of interest to you, we're more than happy to have those conversations to see if it's a good fit. And then here at Texas Law, we have a wonderful loan repayment assistance program for students who are coming to law school for the purpose of working in public interest and public service, or maybe government. And what that looks like for our graduates is if you are in a qualified position and you've registered for an income-driven repayment plan, we could potentially pay your monthly bill for your federal loans up to a salary of $60,000. So if you're making $60,000 or less and you've met all the other requirements, then we could potentially pay for your entire monthly statement. And then for those students who are making $60,001 up to $80,000, we will still help support our graduates, but it's on a contribution system. But it's another wonderful tool that we have here at the law school to help support our students who are working and pursuing a career in public interest and public service, who generally don't make the same kind of salaries as our graduates who work in the private sector. And then, well, you already benefit from having a wonderful pre-law advisor at UTA, Amber, but of course, I would encourage you to visit other resources that are available to students who are applying to law school. Of course, lsac.org, the organization that you'll be submitting your resume and sitting for the LSAT. Visit our website, of course. And if you're able to visit the law school, we definitely welcome that. You can take a tour, meet with current students, as well as sit in on the class. And then for those of you who don't know already, the ABA required disclosures, this is just a helpful website to get all of the important consumer data points that many prospective students are interested in. So you can break it down by year, by school, and look at the full history of schools and information, again, that is relevant for students that are applying to law school. So as I mentioned, come visit us. We'd be more than happy to to meet with you, visit a 1L class, and please be sure to visit our website to download the admissions bulletin. And with that was a long talking for 40 minutes straight. And so I'm going to stop sharing my screen here and see if there are any other questions. So there was a question here in the chat about, are there special support programs available for minority or first-gen students with no outside law connections? Absolutely. So one of the programs that we have is called Thriving in Law School. It's a program that precedes our orientation program that takes place around the second week of August. And what it does is it helps get our first generation and students from underrepresented backgrounds together to talk about some of those issues that they don't even know, right? They don't have the benefit of having family members or friends and other ties to the legal community. And so that's one way that we help support our students. Many of our affinity student organizations, including APULSA, which is the Asian Pacific Law Student Association, the TMLS, which is the Black Law Students Association, and CHALSA, which is the Latino Law Students Association, and Outlaws, which is our LGBTQIA organization. They all come together and they create this Thriving in Law program, but they also create a wonderful support network for our students for whom, law school, they're the first person in their family to maybe even pursue a college degree. And so we offer those kinds of ways of support. In addition to that, we have a wonderful mentorship program here at the law school that I can't say enough about. It's spearheaded by one of our graduates, Remy Ratliff. And many law schools don't have a dedicated, mentor director, right? And for us, we have about a 98% participation rate where all of our 1L students will be paired with a mentor who's practicing in an area that they might be interested in to help support our students as well. And so that's another way of support for our students. Good question.
So Dean, I don't know if there are other questions. I'm trying not to, I don't want to cut any questions off. And if anybody else has a question, please, my question is not priority, yours are. But I did want to see if you were able to spend a couple of minutes talking about UT Law's cohort program. I think we actually have a couple of students that are participating now,
Yeah.
but for sake of posterity, I'd love to get information out there so that students might be able to participate in this upcoming cycle.
Yeah, absolutely. So our cohort program is just a wonderful addition that we've had here in the last year. So one of the challenges that we have, not only within the law school, but within the legal profession, is that many of the students who are coming to law school do not come from underrepresented backgrounds. The legal profession still does not reflect the communities that it serves. And so we have really thought deeply about how do we address this issue. And so over the last year or so, we have recruited Nicole Simmons, who is a graduate of Texas Law and who used to work in our career services office to spearhead some pipeline initiatives. That does include a boot camp opportunity for students to really drill down into the application components, and it's sort of a workshop base, so students really get their hands sort of not dirty, but they really are doing the work to prepare application materials to be successful in the application process. In addition to that, the cohort program is currently for 30 students for whom they're first generation or they come from underrepresented backgrounds. And it's a comprehensive approach to just getting students to the application process. So participants in the cohort program will go through several months long journey in preparing for the law school process. They'll be preparing for the LSAT. They will be exposed to issues of law that they may not have been aware of. They will learn from law school admission experts, financial aid experts, and our graduates of the program. And if they're admitted into Texas law, they will also benefit from substantive scholarship opportunities, which does include full ride opportunities. And so it's just a wonderful addition to our admission fold and recruiting strong students to attend the law school.
I don't know if there are other questions. Speak now.
Yeah.
Well, this has been particularly informative. I've personally also learned a great deal about UT Law and the admissions process, and certainly, I'm probably going to be trying to get on y'all's calendar to go back for another tour. It's been a while for me, I think. So,
Yeah.
um,
Please
at least a
do.
year. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we definitely. Um, are there any? And I guess, and I wanted to ask, are you a graduate of UT Law? And then it's personal, but sometimes,
No. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
sometimes we get that personal perspective of what you personally love about UT Law.
Yeah. So I didn't attend UT Law. I went to UT for undergrad. So I'm no
Okay.
stranger to Austin, by no stretch of the imagination. But when I was the dean of admissions at University of Washington, where I was about, for 10 years, almost 10 years, I've always said that if I ever were to move back to Texas, where I'm from, it would only be Austin. No offense to my folks in Arlington, and my parents live there.
Okay.
You know, but I have just a strong affinity for Austin. I'm very outdoorsy, and as I shared earlier, Austin is a wonderful place for those who are outdoors minded, and just a lot of activity, of course, happening in the downtown central area. So yeah.
Excellent. Okay. Well, I mean, I think that that's the bulk of the questions. So how do we get in touch with you or the admissions office if we've got
Yeah.
more questions?
Absolutely. Feel free to reach out to me at any time. Please do not hesitate. You can send an email to admissions@law.utexas.edu. That'll be the easiest way.
Excellent. Well, we are so grateful that you joined us, and thank you so much for your time. Um, Definitely, we hope to have you back again, and we also hope to get some more students out to you
Thank you.
in the coming months and weeks. So,
Absolutely. Well, good luck, and let us know if there's anything you need. And yeah, it's good to see you again.
yes, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording now.
Okay.